Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the world premiere of After Poured. I am Jason Cercone, and today we are kicking off our inside look at the Poured in PA series. Behind the scenes looks, we've got interviews lined up with different personalities that were involved in the first 5 episodes. We have to talk about something that we were not expecting to talk about to lead things off. So to do that, and as well as every other episode of the After Poured series going forward, I'm going to be joined by Mr. Nate Kresge of Poured in PA and GK Visual. Nate is the executive producer on the film. What is up, Nate?
How's it going?
Good, man. So here we are. We're all primed for this big launch, no pun intended, of Poured in PA, the series, to go live on Amazon Prime Monday, June 1st. We talked about it in an intro video. You guys have been plugging the hell out of it.
Sure.
I've been telling everybody I know, June 1st, Amazon Prime. And then, as we've become accustomed to in our world these days, COVID-19 strikes again. And unfortunately, due to some behind-the-scenes issues with Amazon, you are not live on Amazon Prime as of right now. So the first 5 episodes can be found on the Poured in Pennsylvania YouTube channel. And Nate, I'm going to let you fill everybody in on exactly what is going on with the Amazon launch.
So just like everybody else, we're having to adjust and adapt to this new way of life. And we were all set to have everything launch on Amazon. We had everything uploaded to Amazon in plenty of time according to their specifications. And we still haven't heard back, the week before we were supposed to launch. And so we started doing some digging, and we're finding out other filmmakers are having the same issue and being pushed back a month, 2 months with their launch. So we scrambled. We didn't want to delay getting this product out into the hands of, or in front of the eyes of everybody that wants to watch this. So we're going with YouTube. We'll get that up there. It is up there, I should say, and people can watch the first 5 episodes on YouTube. And when Amazon gets cleared and we can get our product through there, we'll put that up on Amazon as well. So you'll have to be able to see it there. So a little disappointing for us, but I think YouTube's going to be a good home for this to start off with, and we'll just roll with it.
And I think it's cool too. I mean, personally, I have YouTube on my Fire Stick, so I could watch YouTube just like I watch normal television. So
people are used to now watching YouTube on a little bit more platforms than they did before. So
so at least we don't have to be deprived of something new to binge in this ample time of binge-worthy content. So again,
we should probably mention if you watch episode 2 of After Poured. Through the magic of television here, may have recorded some things out of order, and you might hear us plugging the show on Amazon, but in fact, it is on YouTube right now.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell were we thinking trying to be proactive?
That's what happens.
You just can't do it anymore these days. Well, let's learn a little bit about you. So for those that don't know, the Poured in PA series was an extension of the Poured in Pennsylvania full-length documentary that you and your crew through GK Visual did a couple of years back, and that's been live on Amazon Prime and still is. If you haven't watched it, you can go check that out now. But
that is on Amazon.
That is there now, so that will live on its own for a minute until the series joins it. But for now, if you want to check that out, if you haven't, even if you have, jump over to Amazon Prime.
Watch it again. It's a good refresher.
Watch it again and tell your friends. But tell us some more about the inspiration behind that story or behind that documentary, and ultimately how it transitioned into being a series that we are now seeing on YouTube.
Yeah, so we'll back it up just even a little bit farther than that. We did a documentary on brewing in the Harrisburg area, which if you do some digging on YouTube, you might even be able to find it. I think it's even been bootlegged a couple of times on Amazon, on YouTube. It's called Brew in the Berg. For you Pittsburgh viewers, there's no H on the end of that Berg. And that's just a brief snapshot of the time of what the Harrisburg scene looked like. That changed drastically since that film's been out. And so we always wanted to do a statewide version of that when we put that out. And so when we had the chance, we had the time, we pulled all our resources and put together Poured in Pennsylvania, the documentary. We loved how it turned out. We've had a lot of great feedback. But again, it's a timestamp. So things change. As soon as we put that out, brewers are moving to different places. New breweries are opening. the landscape changes drastically. So we always wanted to try to stay as current as we could, but it's tough getting product together and doing it to the quality that we want to do it. So we're like, let's do a series. And we were fortunate enough to pull together some funding, had some great partners there, and set out to do that. And so ever since the film, I should say, pretty shortly after the film was launched on Amazon, we started working on the series. And so this has been a long process for us too, and finally got to the point where, hey, we got 5 episodes in the can, we're ready to launch. And we had been telling people the whole way, it's going to be in the fall of last year, it's going to be in the spring, and finally here we are, beginning of summer, launching this thing. So, but we wanted to have it right. And you'll even find some things in here. This was all shot prior to our current pandemic, so everybody's at bars and everybody has masks on, but we still want people to see what these brewers are all about, and enjoy that and support them. And I think this is a great way to support them through this series.
Well, fortunately, you're filming and telling a story in a world where delays are inevitable. And we hear that from breweries all the time, that they expect to be open by this date, and then obstacle A, B, C, and Z all come up that they weren't expecting. So you've got everybody's sympathy, I'm sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And listen, it hits us, that's not how you put your baby out into the world, and that's how you want to present it. But hey, as long as people get to see it, we're happy.
So today we're talking about episode 1 on our world premiere episode of After Poured, all about Fresh Fest, which is a tremendous event that took place in Pittsburgh. I know I missed out on the memo, as you'll see in segment 2 when we're joined by Dave Bracey. Yeah. Again, magic of television. We're doing things different, but we're putting it all together so it makes sense for the viewer. But Fresh Fest is a phenomenal event, a phenomenal movement that has been born here in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, there are some changes that are coming, and we can't all gather together to celebrate as we have in years past. But when we move into segment 2, we're gonna be joined by Dave Bracey, one of the co-founders of Fresh Fest, as well as one of the co-hosts of the Drinking Partners podcast. So our friends in Pittsburgh all know who Day is, and we had a great time rapping with him. And again, we're going to get to him in segment 2. So tell us about your experience filming Fresh Fest. And again, for you guys listening, watching here, if you're watching this before you've watched episode 1 of the Port and PA series, you're doing it backwards. We can do it backwards.
Spoiler alert, right?
We can do this backwards in production, but you need to watch that first, then come here. Avoid all spoilers by doing that. But Nate, tell us about all the filming and all the good times you guys had when you were putting that together for episode 1 of the series.
Yeah, I mean, Fresh Fest is unlike any beer festival I've ever been to, and that's a great thing. Everything from I go to a beer festival and everybody looks like me, and so it's just so refreshing to be around new faces and meet new people. The beers are phenomenal. You'll never have these beers anywhere else because A, they're collaborations, and B, you have breweries from around the country coming in, these black-owned breweries. And so I've never been able to experience that before. And it just opens up your eyes to what's out there, and just becomes a melting pot, and people just getting along and having such a great time. So I attended the first year and just saw how amazing it was, and wanted to shoot a second year. So that's what we did. Talked to the guys, Drinking Partners, and Mike Potter, and they were more than happy to have us come and film. And so I'm running around with the camera. We had a table set up. We're selling shirts, but I'm running around grabbing interviews and just enjoying it. I didn't get to sample as much beer as I would like to, having worked, but we grabbed enough. I grabbed a Fresh Fest can, some Fresh Fest beers along the way, and brought them back. But yeah, man, it was so refreshing and such a great time.
Yeah, they've really got something special going with Fresh Fest, and we're going to see yet another iteration in 2020, and you're going to learn about that in segment 2 when Dave Bracey joins us here on After Poured. We'll be right back.
Philadelphia,
Pittsburgh,
Lancaster County,
York County, Washington County,
Hershey, Elizabethtown, Carlisle, Harrisburg.
Like, bruh, let me explain the concept of beer festival.
We're always creative in the beer and the products that we make.
But we can be creative in business too. We don't just have to be creative in beer.
Collaboration is so fun and it's so exciting. Most beautiful things come out of collaboration.
It's the camaraderie that you see with our breweries. They do not compete against each other. They compete together.
Everything about the podcast is about collaboration. It's about, yo, you doing something good. I have a platform. We talk about what you do because I rocks with it.
There are just some occasions that call for a beer, and that can't be replaced.
Welcome back to After Port. I'm Jason Cercone, and it is segment 2. We are back talking about Fresh Fest. I am joined by Nate Kresge, who you met in segment 1, and none other than Mr. Dave Bracey, the brains behind Fresh Fest. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, folks?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm still alive and healthy, so that's what's most important, man.
It is not crazy times, as we learned in segment 1. First 5 episodes are on YouTube of Port and PA, the series. We were expecting it to go on Amazon, but thanks to COVID, we're going to wait a little bit longer. But you do not have to wait. You can jump over to the Port in Pennsylvania YouTube channel and check out all 5 episodes as planned. But we've got Day here. We're going to talk a little bit about Fresh Fest. We're going to talk a little bit about the first episode of Port and PA, Port and PA, the series. Day, what'd you think of your role or your actual show on Port and PA?
I was surprised because I thought we were gonna have like a segment, like we were gonna have like maybe 5 minutes in there, and like it just kept going, and I was like, wait, this is a whole episode? Like it's insane. And it was wild because like building this, you know, like I see it from my point of view, and you know I hear feedback like in my presence, but hearing other people's feedback while like when I'm not in the room was wild. I mean, it was you know it led me to believe that like people, you know, sometimes I get the idea that people are just repeating what I'm saying, and you know they're just like they're just shaking their head going yeah that makes sense, cool, yeah, for the Black community, you know. But like to hear people actually like you know reiterate some of the, you know, the goals and the intentions of the festival, you know, it was uplifting. And the documentary was so well like done. I mean, the transitions and the music and like the cuts. I mean, like the production quality was absolutely insane. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot. But it was if I were to sum it up, it would be inspiring. You know, it renewed my faith in what we were doing, which is you know, like it's hard after a few years of building something like this. So you know, thank you guys for that.
Nate, what were you guys thinking as you shot all the happenings of that day? Actually, you guys got footage from both years, right?
Well, no, actually, we didn't shoot the first year at all. But let me just jump in and
Okay.
say thanks to Day here quick. I mean, that means a lot to us because we kind of live in a bubble when we're putting this stuff together, and then get really nervous, especially showing it to somebody that's in the actual production, and like, oh, you know, if they could turn around and hate it, we're screwed. So I love getting feedback like that. And our whole team, I shared some of your comments and they flipped out and they loved it. So I really appreciate you saying that stuff. No, so the way it worked, I attended the first Fresh Fest as we had a table set up and we were selling shirts, but we didn't actually shoot anything. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there like, man, I wish I had a camera here. Like, this is just unlike anything I've ever been to. It's the most relaxed atmosphere I've ever been to at a beer festival. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's having a great time. It just, you know, it's unlike anything I'd ever been to before. And it made me feel so at home. And I'm like, we got to cover this next year. So we made, you know, whether we're going to have a show or not, I don't think at that point we even realized we were going to do a show, but knew we had to somehow cover Fresh Fest. So we made sure we did.
Yeah, you guys definitely captured some great footage. Day, give us some insight about the growth and evolution of Fresh Fest since the inception of the idea and then through the first 2 festivals that you guys threw.
So, you know, Fresh Fest was an idea. There's a lack of diversity in the beer industry. There's a lack of diversity in all industries. You know, but the beer industry was something that as a comedian with a drinking podcast, we were familiar with, we were taken in by the beer community like immediately. Once they realized, we were out to, drink some good beer, learn, and, promote the culture or whatever, they kind of took us right in and, shared those, that, the camaraderie and the collaboration that's in that industry or whatever. So, Ed and I, really took to it. And then, we ended up meeting Mike, brought him in for the podcast, hit it off, and then got to machinating as to how to solve some of these diversity issues because, we were the only ones in, most of the breweries that we were at, most of the, places that, beer served, most of the festivals and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, the purpose of it was to, how do we find representation? How do we open some doors up and, provide some opportunity? How do we get the message out there and whatnot? And a festival is a great place for that. So, people are congregating and networking and doing all these great things. So, we pushed forward with it, not really knowing what was gonna come of it. It's Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is an area that isn't the most welcoming to, Black people. So we didn't know how it was going to be taken, but we reached out to some of our closest friends in the industry locally, and they were right on board. And it was wild because, I mean, we were getting messages like, you know what, there are a lot of white people in this industry. I'm kind of sick of that. Yeah, let's do it. So it started out with, about 10 breweries that we reached out to. And then by the end of by the time we got up to the festival, there were 25 breweries that were involved with these collaborations. And we made sure that we emphasized that, hey, if you're going to be a part of this festival, you have to collaborate. You can't just show up with your regular beer and pour a couple of kegs and say, you've done something for the community. We wanted to build real connections and conversations and relationships in the community, and also give a voice to the folks, in our community saying, hey, I like this. I like to drink this. Give me that beer. I mean, as you both are craft beer drinkers. You love flavors. You want, you're like, hey, I like hoppy. I like this, and the industry listens. I mean, they listen to you. We wanted to do the same thing. We wanted to get the industry's ear and say, hey, we like these flavors. Why not, introduce those while also, providing some representation. So the first year came out, it was nerve-wrackingly, it was very nerve-wracking. We didn't know how many tickets were going to be sold. I mean, we doubled our ticket sales a day of. So Friday, we were I was not going to be able to pay my mortgage, and then Saturday we skimmed by barely because the sun shone, and it was a great event. And then it was like, okay, well, how do we expand on this? And in the second year, we doubled it, brought in more breweries from around the country, brought in more collaborations, more artists, doubled the stages, and made it a whole to do. And the feedback was absolutely amazing. And I mean, again, it was very nerve-wracking, but we had a bit more confidence, and people reached out from across the country saying, hey, we believe in this, and this is a thing that needs to happen. So, shout out to everybody that came together to make that happen.
And I love that you guys shared the memo about the Fresh Fest t-shirts. I would have broke mine out had I received said memo. Appreciate that.
I showed up, and I don't know if they saw it yet. I showed up with my Fresh Fest beard too, so I got all fanboyed up for this talk.
Yeah, man, those dudes over at Trogs, man, like they make amazing beer. I'm sure that beer was probably a little bit better a year ago, but we're still vibing.
It's still wet.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your podcast day. And before we get into it, Nate shared a story with me last night from when he showed up at your studio to be a part of the podcast. So, Nate, why don't you share that story with us? Because we got to get an explanation for how all this went down.
I still don't know. I still understand how this happened, but I've been texting Day, and I got a message text from him, and like let's even back this up a little bit more. Day and I had been hanging out in State College for a night and drank, and we had a good time and whatever. But texted him since then, and I got a text from him. It was like, hey, you want to show up on the cast? Come on out. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I show up, and I walk through the door, and Dave's like, hey, how's it going? He's like, is Brandon with you, or is she coming later? Or I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, man. And just they're laughing the whole time. And we finally figure out that somehow, Dave can explain it better, maybe.
So
I don't know. He had my name mixed up in his phone.
Yeah, so like we were out in we were brewing out in Trogs, and then we recorded a segment for Poured, and then ended up hanging out down in Harrisburg at the brewery, and somewhere in all the text messages or whatever, like it got all mixed up. Alcohol was involved, and then I was just texting back and forth, and Nate it was wild because we were texting for like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months maybe back and forth. And he'd hit me up and be like, I just get this text like, hey, I'm in town and want to come hang out for a drink. And I'd be like, oh man, I got something going on. But hit me up next time. Like, da da da. And, eventually, but I thought it was Brandon, and there was no indication in the text messages of which one, because
I wasn't asking you what you were wearing or anything like that. It was pretty.
Yeah, it's a good thing photos weren't exchanged, because that could have got real ugly.
And they both live in the same area. They're in the beer industry. They're like, oh, I'm in town. And they were they easily, the events and everything else could have easily just been the same person. So I had the number mixed up, and I was just sitting there I'm sitting there in the studio with Nate. I'm he shows up, and I'm like, oh shit, this is dope. We're gonna get a twofer. We're gonna get and I'm like, so where's Brandon? He's like, just me, bro. All right, fuck it, let's cast. And it ended up.
It turned out.
It ended up being a great cast, man. Got to know more about what he was doing and the beer industry in general. I always love talking to people that know more about beer than I do. So it was amazing.
I don't know if I know more about beer. I just like to drink it.
Well, you guys, mission accomplished that day, because you guys put on a great show. What's going on with the podcast through the pandemic?
So we have been transitioning slowly into something COVID friendly. It's been tough with everybody's schedules all over the place. Our studio was closed, and trying to figure out technology, man. The new technology, it's weird, it's hard. Trying to do it in a way that is, that maintains the brand quality. You don't just want to throw out a terrible product just because, you want content to be out there and whatnot. So we ran into that. First and foremost, we had to get our minds wrapped around all of this COVID shit. I mean, it's a lot to take in. Vast majority of our gigs kind of dried up, which means our income dried up, so you're looking at the family shit, and taking care of home, something like the podcast was kind of down the list for a while. But eventually, as we started to, get our heads around it and started to kind of readjust to the new normal and realize that this wasn't going to be, a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. The Rona isn't going anywhere. And for anybody listening right now, man, the Rona isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So we in the entertainment industry, we have to figure out, we've been doing this, is figuring out, how to go digital and do that over the course of the next year until a vaccine comes out. There's not a really a good, safe way that we can, host these events. But then what the Rona has shown us is that one, new opportunities, because, we don't have to always physically show up at a studio. We don't always have to have a guest, show up physically there, which means that opens us up to so many more opportunities. And then, with event planning and whatnot, having that digital component is something that we can carry, even when live events come back. Why not live stream our comedy shows, our festivals, our, major events and whatnot? And because the entire entertainment industry and, a lot of industries around have been focused on this same problem at the same time, the technology is available that wasn't there a year ago, or is cheap enough now that we can do that. Yeah, we could have live streamed and done a lot of shit a year ago, but how expensive was that? And how good was the quality of that? So with the podcast, we've been watching what a lot of other people are doing, taking notes from around and building that into what we're doing. And we've thus far recorded about 3 episodes, and they're fun. And it's been a nice transition. And I think we're getting better at transitioning mediums. I think that as an artist, and as a producer, you can never stay stagnant in what you do. So I started out with YouTube videos, and then I got on stage as a comedian, and then switched over to podcasting and live events and things of that nature. So after years of continuing to reinvent what we're doing, it starts to get a little easier, as things go on. So, it's been very troubling and weird and scary times, but also exciting in the sense that, as a creator, we're getting to do new shit, and reinvent ourselves.
So again, with everything that you're experiencing, obviously you had to make adjustments with the podcast, and we know in this new world with the winds of change sweeping through, festivals and events are taking on an entirely new phase. So what does Fresh Fest 2020 look like?
Well, I guess you're going to hear it here first a little bit here, but we're going to go digital. Fresh Fest DigiFest. We're not going to put 5,000 people in close proximity to each other. My insurance can't handle it. My lifestyle and budget can't afford lawsuits. And it just sounds like the death of a brand. And for anybody else out there listening that is, that are postponing their events until August, people have reached out to me and like, oh, what do you think about August? No. Until there's a vaccine, there's no reason why anybody should be holding any events in any large capacity. So we are going to take it digital. We're looking at live streaming, some forums, some podcasts, some live speaker series. We're going to be focusing on some cooking, some brewing, some DJing, live art, live music. It's going to be all of the elements of Fresh Fest. We're even looking at continue to have breweries collab, and the purpose of the festival is that education aspect. So we're going to have the speakers and the podcasts and things of that nature. It's the beer and the empowerment of the Black community. So in past years, you had to be at the festival in order to partake in the festival. This year, you're going to be able to collab with anyone in your area, across the country, across the world, any Black entity, artist, neighborhood, and partake in this festival. We will be launching an app that will be featuring the breweries, the collabs, the schedule of events, vendors, Black-owned vendors around the country, and encouraging other people to go live and produce their own content as well. And this is a way that we continue the spirit of the festival, the elements of the festival, but also putting some money in the pockets of artists who are finding it extremely difficult to monetize digital content. We all as artists have figured out how to play our instruments or tell our jokes live and tickets and whatnot, but it's much harder on the digital side of things because you're competing with like unlimited amounts of entertainment and options. So with this, I think that there's strength in numbers. So going to the public and saying, hey, I'm a guy with a guitar. Pay me $10 to play online when there's all this content is hard. But going to the public and saying, hey, we've got 9-10 hours of content from all of these people across the country. Give us $10 is a little easier, and again it puts money in the artists of the
of the speakers, of the people running the tech, and the artists that are taking part in the festival. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to it coming together as well.
Dave, was that a hard decision for you guys to come to that point?
Oh man, it's still a hard decision. I mean, it's never, well, not to say that it's never been done before. I mean, people have live streamed events before, but I mean, it's never really been done in this capacity, in this way, during these times with this technology, you know, in this fashion. So there's a lot of firsts. There's really no blueprint to any of this, and like for a long time, we were really struggling because, you know, with all of this COVID shit, you're getting, you know, mixed messages every day, multiple times a day. I mean, I'm scouring. I wake up, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on my Twitter feed, and I'm just digesting all of the information that I can. And
I see your posts on Facebook early in the morning.
yeah, I mean, like, I mean, because you know, you want to know, you want to have the interest of your, you know, of the people you're serving, you know, the best interest in mind. And it's really hard because you're getting so many mixed messages from trusted sources. You know, it's not just some crazy right-wing site like, you know, this, that, and the other. I mean, the CDC, the WHO, the governor, the mayor, you know, your senator, the president, they're all saying different shit. You know, so it's hard to know, you know, I mean, one week masks are cool, the next week they're not, you know, this, that, and the other. And it's like, and it was really hard, you know, like it was wild. We had a meeting about Fresh Fest in March, still going forward. We were going to have people there. We're like, all right, cool. It should clear up by, you know, the summertime. And then Tom Hanks got the Rona and the NBA season canceled. And we were like, maybe not, you know, like it got real. So it was this weird place where we had to simultaneously plan as if we were going to have an in-person festival, but then also plan as if we were going to possibly cancel this festival. And that's really hard place to be, because it's hard to go to vendors and to brewers and to sponsors and confidently say, hey, you know, brew that beer, you know, send that check, you know, get ready because we're doing this, not really knowing if you could, you know, but you have to, because you have to put the time in. There's a very limited amount of time that you have to throw a festival. So, you know, it was extremely difficult. But eventually, you know, it just got to a point where the science and everything else just more or less was smack in the face. Hey, this isn't safe to do. And we originally were just going to cancel the festival. You know, we were just like, this isn't safe. We don't have enough time. The technology didn't seem really like, it was like, how would you even do something digital? Why even mess with that and hurt the brand or whatever? So, you know, let's just postpone it until next year and move forward. And with that, there was a little bit more, like, it was a bit more at ease. Like I felt like a breath of like relief, actually, because we at least, sorry, mild runner there. We we had at least had a path, and we had chosen a way to move forward. But then it was funny. We got some feedback from some festival goers, some brewers, some vendors, you know, saying, hey, like, you know, why not do something digital? You know what I mean? We would support that. Like, you know, we want to, there's so much more good that can still happen, you know, with something like that. And, you know, watching what a lot of people were doing in the industry, we're like, all right, yeah, this is definitely something we can do. And we could do it in a way that, you know, again, in a quality manner that wouldn't just be, you know, some like, we just do this thing together, here it is. I think that what we're going to put together and the support that we have across the nation is really going to be something that, you know, again, makes a statement. We've had to reinvent this festival every year. The first year, you know, it was very small. It was like, hey, it's a concept. Let's see if it flies. The second year, we actually had to expand upon that. We had to go bigger and make a bolder statement that it wasn't just a flash in the pants, one-time thing, and you know, introduce different elements. And this year is no different. And the fourth year,
we'll do it again, and as many times as we need to in order to let the industry know that throwing people in the parking lot with a reggae band in the background is no longer acceptable. You got to do something more than that. People are sick of that, and we could do better. There are a lot of people out there with a lot of voices and ideas that are valuable, and we need to start listening to those people. Fresh Fest is the reason why Fresh Fest is so successful is because we listened to thousands of people. Literally thousands of people had input on this. A lot of them didn't really have a voice in the industry before, and now you're seeing what they have. So year 3 will be no different.
All right, Dave, this has been a tremendous conversation. It's great to hear you guys are pushing forward with a digital Fresh Fest, so we know that the brand is not going away, and we have something fun to look forward to as we roll into summer. So thanks again for coming on the show, man. This has been great. And Nate, thank you for contributing as well.
Yeah.
So check out episode 1 of the Port and PA series on YouTube right now. In the future, we're looking at Amazon, but for right now, you can check it out on the Port in Pennsylvania YouTube channel. Check out their social media to find the links. I'm sure it will be plugged everywhere, as well as episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5, also live on YouTube. So this has been episode 1 of After Poured. We'll be back next week with episode 2, After Poured, on my YouTube channel. Look for links all over social media, as well as youtube.com/Jason Cercone. You can subscribe and click the little bell so you get notifications anytime a video goes live. Guys, thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Y'all
stay safe.
Yep.
I'll go throw my Fresh Fest shirt on now so I can fit in, and it won't be on film. I'll do it for solidarity. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Cheers.
All right, cheers.